All right, what is up, folks? I'm here today with a book focused video. I'm going to be talking about everything I've read this year so far. It is just now spring. Spring is coming with a strawberry in its mouth. And I have read a few books this year, haven't gone super crazy, been pretty steady about it. Uh, you know, typical slow here, fast there, and I just want to talk about it, kind of give a little quick run through of what I've been reading. So I have my Fable up because I don't want to be pulling all my books out, so I'm just going to talk about them as they come. There's also a few that I'm in the process of reading, which I'll get those out of the way real quick. I'm currently reading Martyr by Kevin Akbar. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just like 100 pages in. I just started it. It's different than what I was expecting, I think, because it is following different characters, different points of view, which I think is interesting. And I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I'm not going to make full opinions on that until I'm done reading the book. And then, as is something I'm doing consistently, I'm still reading Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer, reading about a chapter at a time, just kind of checking in every once in a while. I kind of want to stretch out the reading experience and not just run through it. So making progress on that as well. And then I just reacquired Becoming by Michelle Obama, her biography, through Libby. So my hold on that finally came back in. I started reading it, my hold expired, and then I replaced a hold, and now I have it again. So I really need to read that because I think I have just under or just over a week left of that. But otherwise, as to the books that I have completely read this year, I have read 7 books so far this year, and then obviously in the process of reading 3 other books. My goal for this year is to read 26 books, which my goal reading convention each year is basically whatever year it is. So in 2025, I put a goal of 25 books. In 2024, I put a goal of 24 books. In 2031, I'll put a goal of 31 books, and on and on and on. And it's been fine so far. So I'm getting to 26 just bit by bit. One thing I do like about Fable is that it really gives some good analytics as to what you're reading throughout the year in kind of a fun format. It's much better, in my opinion, to view a book tracking app like this than whatever the hell Goodreads has going on. It kind of gives you an idea of the mood, the type of reader you are, what genres you read the most. It averages your ratings. It One thing I really like is showing you your most read authors, which last year my most read author was Jeff Vandermeer because I reread The Southern Reach and read Absolution, and then also read his first novel, Venice Underground, all in the same year. So just kind of running through them. Heated Rivalry was the first book I completed this year. I watched the show, was obsessed, started reading the book. I really enjoyed it. I do want to read the rest of the series, the Game Changer series. I do think I want to get the physical books for that, though, and I don't think I'm going to read the series until I do that. I could, try and borrow it from a library, go ahead and get the ebooks. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to wait until I get the physical books. That way I can really enjoy it and really just go through it at that pace. And, between now and next summer, whenever this, the next book of hers comes out, I got plenty of time to do that. So, Heated Rivalry, though, really fun romance, really fun sports, gay romance, plenty of steamy scenes. I made a whole video talking about my thoughts on Heated Rivalry overall, which, you should check out if you haven't already. A lot of people seem to dig it. So, woohoo to that. I think the show did a lot of things better than the book did, but I still think the book was successful on its own right, obviously, because it, created the fandom of hers and helped make it a property that was ultimately turned into a TV show. Yeah, in terms of the genre conventions, I think it was great. As a romance novel, rating it in that kind of genre, I gave it 4.5 stars. So he did Rivalry, book number 1. So my second book I read this year is Witch King by Martha Wells. It's fantasy. She is known for doing the Murderbot Diaries, Sci-Fi, which is an Apple TV show now. She has a bunch of other successful works. She's done fantasy before, but Martha Wells, I think, is a great writer. Everything I've read of hers, I've enjoyed, including Witch King. It is about this demon, essentially, that is freed from a water trap where he and one of his besties, so to speak, have been trapped in like a prison against their will for some strange reason. And once he's freed, he begins to go on this journey to find out, one, what has happened, why he's been trapped for probably the past year, I think, what's different. And his companion is also on a mission to find her wife, which I think is such an interesting dynamic, and that really, carries the plot of this novel. But it is also split into a present timeline and a past timeline, which I think is really interesting, and I think it works really well in this book. But the plot of the first novel follows in the present time Kaisteron, the demon, uh, the Witch King, and Zeed, who is a witch and has the ability to call on powerful wind spirits, as they kind of figure out what has happened to them and they search for Zeed's wife, Karen, who is a member of the Immortal Blessed, which is this kind of separate race in this world. One of my favorite things about Witch King is that it is such a unique world. It is such a uniquely crafted magic system with lots of different aspects that are kind of all logically tied together in a way. I'm not going to say too much on that, but I don't know whether it was mentioned in the first book or the second book, which I will talk about in a sec. There's kind of like, the world has an underlying magic current that all these different groups can draw from in a way. There's like a really brief allusion to that, but there's different types of magic. There's things that demons can do. There are things that witches can do. The Immortal Blessed can call on the Well of Thossarin, I think it's called, which is this magical well of energy. There's the Hierarchs, which is this strange race that has come to colonize this world, this continent, and they're a mysterious culture. Nobody knows too much about them, but supposedly they have their own magical well that they're able to draw power from. And when it comes to the past timeline, it follows Kaisteron as he's first existing with his Sereti clan in the grasslands, as they deal with the hierarchs first arriving on this continent and bringing war, bringing destruction and genocide, and kind of colonizing this nation, or these various nations, I should say. And so the past deals with that, and then Kaisteron also gets kind of imprisoned in the past, and he meets this band of revolutionaries, essentially, that want to be free from the grip of the hierarchs. I loved the differences of culture in Witch King. I think the story was really well crafted. The writing was amazing. I, my issue, I think, with the book, because I gave it 4.75 stars. I like how Fable can do quarter star ratings, so I didn't think Witch King was quite a great 5-star read, because I do think there were some chapters at the end where things really slowed down. It made me feel some type of way, because we're getting to the end of the story. Everything's supposed to be picking up. There were just some things, especially as it related to, I think, the past segments, that really slowed down the story, I think. They were still good. They were still well written, still informative. They served their purpose. but that's one of the main reasons I think it wasn't like quite a 5-star read for me. If you're looking for a new fantasy, if you're looking for a unique fantasy, Witch King is so good though. And I love a cool magic system, and there's some cool types of magic in Witch King. Okay, this next book, I definitely started reading in last year. I started reading in 2025, and it's The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. It's about 600, 700 pages long, and it tells the story of the island nations of Dara as essentially civil war breaks out, and these different cultures and countries and islands all start fighting against one another and trying to free themselves from the tyranny of the empire, essentially. And this book is the first in a series, the Dandelion Dynasty series. My thoughts can really be summed up by just saying I think the first book is a great standalone story. I finished it. I think it's really well written for the purpose of what it is, but I personally do not want to continue the series. I don't think uh, The Grace of Kings gripped me enough to warrant me reading another 2,000 pages worth of story. I can enjoy and appreciate The Grace of Kings for what it was. My rating for it, I rated it 4 stars. It's also a book where like the gods are real essentially, and they're kind of meddling out or not meddling in the world, which is a hit or miss for some people. I don't necessarily like as a concept real gods. It's also a cool concept as well. The narration of The Grace of Kings was basically an omniscient multi point of view narration. It jumped around a lot between a lot of different characters. And unlike something like Game of Thrones, where you have specific point of views that you're following for the story, The Grace of Kings really just would give you points of views from random people, important people, but you could get their point of view for maybe like a few pages or a couple chapters, and then either they would die or it would move on to the main characters again. I think that was jarring for me, especially because it happened quite a lot. I wasn't super invested in any of the characters. I was really only invested in Kuni Garu, I believe his name is. It's been a few months since I finished the book, but Kuni Garu, I think I loved his story. I love everything about what he did, what he went through, his journey throughout the entire book. I'm a big Cooney stan. Yeah, I didn't really care about too many other points of views. I think the point of view hopping just was a little too much, too jarring, and I didn't, get hooked. I can separate the fact that it just wasn't quite the fantasy story for me with the fact that it was a well-written story, because it did span quite a lot of time. It spanned multiple years, multiple big events. This could have been a really solid like standalone. And granted, nope, and granted, I don't know any of the plot of the future books, so I don't know whether much more. I mean, more happens. Obviously, there's 3 more books, but I don't know to what extent the plot of those books. I don't know where the plot goes. Let's say that. Who knows? Maybe at some point I'll try to continue with the series. I just think it's one of those books that I just didn't really vibe with, and so I don't really want to again spend 2,000 more pages of my time, so to speak, just reading more of this story. It just didn't hit. It didn't hit for me. But I gave it 4 stars because it is a good book. Oh my God. But immediately after I finished The Grace of Kings, because I was obsessed with Witch King so much, I had to immediately go and buy Queen Demon, the second book of the Rising World series by Martha Wells. I went against one of my rules, which is that I like to buy series in the same format. So if I buy paperback editions, I want to continue buying paperback editions for the series. I'm waiting to buy Wind and Truth from Brandon Sanderson when it comes out on paperback. I'm not buying a hardback of it. But I was so excited and so obsessed with Witch King that I went ahead, which I had in paperback, that I went ahead and got Queen Demon in hardcover just so I could read the book. Uh, I enjoyed a lot of it. I did. I really enjoyed a lot of it. I was curious to see where the story was going to go, and the problem is that I think it suffers just from sequels curse, from book two curse, because I think there's at least going to be one more book in this series. I don't know if it's trilogy or series or whatever. I think it suffers from book two's curse. Again, the plot is split between the present plot and the past. The present storyline, I think, took way too long to go anywhere. I think where it went was super interesting, but I feel like there was so much more that should have been in this book when it comes to the present plot. In my, like, I did write a small review of Queen Demon on my Fable, and my critique of this book can just be summed up by the fact that I think Queen Demon is a great first half of a sequel to Witch King. There's so much more that should have been in this book to continue the story and further the story, especially in the present tense. Past tense is a different story, but present tense, there should have been so much more to continue the story. And it really left on a cliffhanger that just made me feel kind of unsatisfied with the book. Again, love the magic system, love the overall story and where things are going, the kind of hints at how different cultures exist and are interacting. Obviously, I'm going to continue the series. I'm going to continue reading, and I really want to see where the story goes. I do think the past storyline was great. I think the past storyline was really cool. It had nods that impacted the present storyline more so than I think stuff in the past did in the first book. My only issue with the past storyline was that I feel like the ending was rushed. So I don't know whether there was like a deadline for this project or the author just wants to really save the rest for book three. Yeah, it was a little confusing to me because the present storyline ended on a cliffhanger and the past storyline wrapped up way too quickly, to the point where the like big ending for the past was essentially not on the page, which I don't think it needed to be on the page. But it's weird that if the book was going to end here, to not show kind of the climax, the ending of the past storyline for this book, it was just weird. It was weird. It was like one of those things where there's a lot of buildup about an event happening, and then the event is essentially recounted, and then some other stuff happens. So I was really confused with this book because I ended up rating it 3 stars out of 5. I thought it was average. Again, I think it just suffers from being a sequel and wanting to move the story in a direction, but not being able to fully commit to, plot devices or plot events until your third book. So I don't know. I think things will obviously make more sense when the third book does come out and I see where the story's going. But right now, it just kind of left me unsatisfied. And I was so thrilled with Witch King. I was obsessed with it. Again, to the point where I immediately had to go get the sequel and read it. So it was a little bit of a letdown. I think the writing was still good. I love the world. I love the characters. Hysteron, Kai, the Witch King, Zed, Taran, all of the main cast of characters I think are great. I will say though, which impacts kind of the first part of the present storyline, Taran's brother, I forget his name, but yeah, he's really annoying. I think he's a really annoying character. But that's on purpose. That's on purpose. But he does annoy me. But everybody else, all the other characters, I really do enjoy, and I like seeing more of them. Oh my god! And then my first 5-star read of the year is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I bought this book a bit ago, and I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people talk about it, how it's great, how it's one of the masterpieces of modern fantasy, how Susanna Clarke is such a special talent, but I've never read anything of hers. Piranesi has been eyeing me. Piranesi has been eyeing me for quite a long time. So I finally said, you know what? I'm disappointed with Queen Demon. I'm going to pick up something that needs to wow me. And I trust that this book will wow me. And wow me, it did. I was hooked. I think I finished this book within 24 hours. I'm not kidding. I started it late one night, not late, but I started it like one night. Okay, not 24 hours, but I started it one night, read it at work the next day, and then when I got home, I stayed up to finish it. I think I finished it at like 2 or 3 a.m. But I committed to finishing that book because I was obsessed. Was confused at first. I was intrigued, and then the pieces started fitting together. The things started happening. And I was like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what this is. And I'm not going to say more than that because I think the fact that I went into this not knowing what the hell was going on is exactly how you should go into it if you want to read it. This is a 5-star book. I think this is a perfect book. I think the mystery slowly getting revealed to you throughout the way, the protagonist, the narrator, understanding more and more about what's going on throughout the book um, is great. You start off in the book and it's this weird series of halls that are they real? Are they not real? What's going on? There's upper levels, there's lower levels, there's different rooms with different statues and different things going on, almost like it's a labyrinth. And just like exploring a labyrinth, you explore the workings of the protagonist's mind and world. And by far, I think, Pure Nessie, I think, is one of the few books I can confidently say, know nothing about it, go read it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it other than it's great. There's plenty of people that aren't going to feel that way, so don't come yelling at me if you don't like it, but it is a perfect book. I highly recommend reading it. Oh, and then by this point, I got this Lenovo Nook tablet, which I made a video about that, and you should go watch that as well. It's kind of a unboxing slash review slash what I was reading on it. So I'm going to talk about the same books I talked about in that video. The first book I read on this was Café con Lychee, which is a romance by Emery Lee. It's about these two little gay boys in high school. One is the son of a Puerto Rican family, and I think the other is a son of a Japanese family. Don't cancel me if it's a different type of Asian, but essentially their families are struggling with the restaurants that they own in this kind of smaller town, and this new cool restaurant comes into town and starts taking their customers. So the two boys who are like play soccer together, they're kind of like at each other's throats a little bit. Like they don't like each other to start, but they each come up with a plan to try and help their family restaurants, survive, because both of their parents are like, "Hey, we might have to close the restaurant." And it's cute. The boys interact, they kind of come up with this plan, they enact it, and they kind of, fall for each other along the way. It's cute. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. In terms of romance, I think there are some cliches, some tidy endings, but it was good. It's a YA romance, uh, which I think I'm gonna try to steer away from, not because they're necessarily bad, but it's just not really the type of romance I want to read. Ooh, then the next book I read was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie. Oh, this was cute. It's Korean inspired. It takes place in like a spirit world. It has kind of Spirited Away vibes in a way, but it's basically about this girl who lives in this community that sacrifices a bride to the sea god every year to appease him and kind of try and break the curse that plagues their country, and provide good crops and stop the storms and everything. So her brother is in love with this one chick, and the one chick is supposed to be the sea god's bride this year, which means she gets thrown into the ocean. uh, do they live? Do they die? Nobody knows. But the storms still rage on, and they still do this tradition for some reason. So the main character runs to stop this event from taking place and kind of be there for her brother, who she loves. And in doing so, decides, I'm going to sacrifice myself to the sea god so that my brother can uh, be with the girl he loves. So she does that, and she wakes up in the spirit world. And then there's different things that happen, but essentially she gets tasked with trying to break the curse that's on the sea god. And she meets different characters along the way, different spirit guides. She deals with some like spirit drama between the little houses, the spirit houses. She meets some of the gods and goddesses and kind of makes an impact in all these characters' lives in some way. I thought it was really cool. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's a YA fantasy, but it's like borderline. Yeah, well, it is YA, but I think it's more mature than other YA fantasies that I've read, and I would recommend it. I think it's a good story. I liked it. Ooh. All right, now I'm going to talk about the last book that I have read so far. Currently reading multiple books, but this is what I just finished like a week ago, and it's The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. So I finished the Poppy War trilogy. Obviously, I read book 3. I I think I just had to like sit and process it for a moment. Uh, if you, I mean, it's the same thing that most people say when they read the Poppy War trilogy. It's that everything is bad, everything is horrible, and nobody ends up happy. uh, yeah, it's I I really enjoyed The Burning God. I liked the trajectory of the story. It made me so angry how things ended, but that's the story. And I will say, I think I liked it a lot more than I liked the Dragon Emperor, the Dragon Republic, I should say. The Dragon Republic, I think, had a lot of recounting as a storytelling device, which I think is fine in moderation. It's just the way that R.F. Kuang does her writing. And I liked it in Calabasas. I was fine with it in the Poppy War. And I think it went a little overboard in the Dragon Republic, but it was manageable in the Burning God. What did I rate it? Oh, there's no 4. Okay. I rated it a 4.5 out of 5 because I think it is a very appropriate ending to the trilogy, but I did have some problems with it, and not necessarily where it ended. I'm not going to go into spoilers, obviously, but I actually do think I'll make a separate video where I talk specifically about the trilogy as a whole. So be on the lookout for that. But I do think Rin as a main character did not grow appropriately over the course of the 3 books. Let me go back on that statement a little bit. She grew. She definitely matured. She grew up. She has character growth. Uh, she's been through a fucking lot. She went through a lot. But I think I was rubbed it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because after everything that happened in the Poppy War and the Dragon Republic, she was still acting like a brat sometimes. She was still acting like this confused person. All this shit happened and it's horrible and it's traumatic, but at the same time, I feel like some of the brattiness should have like gone to the wayside by the time of the third book, especially after everything that happened. And yeah, I think I was confused on that a little bit. But where the story went, it's deeply depressing. Uh, and I had to process it for a moment because it's a tragedy. This trilogy is a tragedy, and it's good though. It's so worth it. Obviously, if you don't like R.F. Kuang, if you don't think you'll like her writing, don't get into it. But if you like it, if you read the Poppy War and like it, I would say commit to the rest of the series. Or if you like her other books, if you like Catabasis, if you like Babel, and you want something more fantasy, definitely check it out. I think it's worth reading. I still like R.F. Kuang. I think she's a great writer. I think um, I'm curious though whether she's steering away from fantasy, like straight up fantasy, and doing more like contemporary fantasy, magical realism. I'm excited for Taipei story coming out this year, but the funny thing is, well, it is weird because I looked at her website the other day and she has no mention of her books on it other than Taipei story, which on an author website you would usually link your all the books you've written. So don't know what that's about. But also, I think on one of her bios, maybe it was Instagram, she listed that she was the author of Babel, Catabasis, Yellowface, and Taipei Story, and did not mention the Poppy War. So maybe the Poppy War is R.F. Kuang's ugly child, her ugly duckling. So I'm happy with the books I've read this year so far. I'm excited for all the new stuff coming out. I need to continue reading Becoming by Michelle Obama. I need to finish Martyr. I probably will finish that either tonight or tomorrow. Honestly, I'll probably it's on my coffee table right there. I see it. I'm gonna go read it after this video. I promise. I promise I'm gonna continue reading it. Yeah. If you read any of these books, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like them, if you agree with my assessment of them. And if you don't, that's fine. Just don't be rude about it. Anyway, hope everybody has a great day. Enjoy spring. Enjoy the strawberry that came with spring. Yeah, I guess I will see you next time. Maybe with a Poppy War focused video or something else. Anyway, toodles.